what are the non-physical change that you think the black man is experiencing, whether within their shores or in diaspora?
Why would someone who has a smartphone come to me and ask me if we have roads in Nigeria? How do you know how to drive? Do you have houses in Nigeria? I can bet you any money that there are places in Nigeria that are more beautiful than some places in Edmonton.
We do a lot of classism as Nigerians, you know. You can't associate with these people. You can't do this with these people. There's nothing to gain from these people.
So that mentality of being low, and that's why you see Nigerians pride themselves that their kids can speak with a foreign accent. I took my kid back to the US, blah blah blah, because I didn't want the child to lose her American accent. Those are kind of things that just baffles me.
Why? Is our accent that bad? Is the British accent that superior that you had to pay extra fees for your child because you wanted your child to get the British accent?
My own accent, I like it. My Ibotic Nigerian accent, I like it. When I speak, people understand me. So what's the fuss about? Someone asked me, how do we fix racism in the West? I said, you don't need to fix racism in the West. If Nigeria can create the situation where I can come back to Nigeria and earn $150,000 a year, I will leave.
I think I was watching, I saw a documentary somewhere, I think on YouTube, and they were showing the point of no return in Badagry, where slaves, the last place slaves were packaged or were kept before they shipped them up to the Americas. And what struck me was hearing, the tour guide stating that then one umbrella was exchanged, one umbrella was for 40 men, 40 Africans. That's what they would give the king, and to take the 40 black men and ship them now to the Americas. I'm sure many of their descendants are the people that you see, maybe, I don't know, in
50
America,
cents.
50 cents, still in all those places. So, we see, you want to say something?
No, I know that look is a very sensitive topic, and a lot of times the way the whole conversation has been characterized is, the way the topic has been characterized is, yes, the whites, you know, they were involved in slave trade, they were involved, and we have, you know, and yes, they acknowledge, you know, a lot of times, but one of the things again that history, especially when we were young, when history was telling us about the slave trade, failed to tell us or tried to hide was Africans too were involved in slave trade. Africans too had slaves. And the white man didn't just come into Africa and just pick people on their own. We actually offered people to them, and we sold our people into slavery. So that part of that we need as Africans, even we too, we need to acknowledge, if the whites acknowledge that, okay, they participated in slave trade. We too, we need to acknowledge that we too were culpable and participated, and so that if there's going to be a true reconciliation, everybody needs to come to the table with, you know, like, we too, we are sorry. We sold our people. I don't know if my great-grandfathers or my grandfathers were involved. That's the thing. Emeka doesn't know if his grandfathers or great-grandfathers were involved. Nobody knows. And just like you too. But Africans were culpable. So don't let us, it is nice and this thing to just pass the bulk of the blame towards the white man to say, yes, you enslaved your people, you did slave trade, you did that, but we should also own up to what we also did. And but when you say it's like they call you house negro, or they call you names that you are in support of the white man.
Because I was going to ask you now, this thing you said here now, will you say it at work? Do you think you will have freedom to say it at work?
No. But I'm just saying that it's good.
The truth,
let's acknowledge.
It's the truth, though.
It's just like also when you're talking about Europeans or the British invaded Canada. Yes, they did, and they did a lot of horrible things when they came to this land, to the natives, to the people. But also, another thing that needs to be acknowledged was the natives too were killing each other, and there were a lot of barbaric acts like eating flesh, skinning people. They killed each other to take each other's land. And yes, someone came in with superior power, technology, and was able to override you, but people also oppressed each other, which also happened in Africa. The Oyo Empire was taking people from different empires, from different distances as slaves and selling. The Oyo was invading Egba, invading Lagos, and the Kanuri or whatever empire too was invading in their own side to invade Ilorin and everything. And we are killing each other too. So some of those things need to be acknowledged. And who says that if Africans had the superior technological power, that we wouldn't have done worse to the world?
Mm-hmm. Make some valid points. So I don't know if you can hear me, hopefully. So what I want to talk about, you mentioned physical change. When you talk about slave trade, you have the chains. Many of our African brothers and sisters were in shackles, and people could say, well, this is slave trade. Everybody was in chains. You didn't have freedom. When they moved to the Americas, Brazil, North America, and co, they worked on farms, blah, blah, blah. Now, those physical chains have been replaced with visual one. What are the non-physical chains that you think the Black man is experiencing right now in the world, whether within their shores or in diaspora?
So, when I came to Canada in 2016, so I'll rephrase, as Nigerians in Igbo land, we say things like Beke wa Abara, which literally translates to the white man is a god. I don't know how it is said in Yoruba, but I can say to a great extent that every Black man looks at white people. And this is a fallout from the movies we watch, which as kids, we didn't understand that this was make-believe. So we watched these movies, we grew with it. And oh, you're going abroad. Of course, when we are going abroad, we're celebrating. I'm going to, where things are better. Some people throw parties and things like that. I didn't do any of that. I just knew, but I was going to work. But I kind of had this, expectation that things will be better. Okay, so I got here in 2016 with that mindset, and it took me a few months to realize that these people, maybe their forefathers were smart, but what I'm looking at now, I wouldn't call this smart, because from the experiences I had, why would someone who has a smartphone come to me and ask me if we have roads in Nigeria? How do you know how to drive? Do you have houses in Nigeria? And questions like that. And I remember telling people many times, open up that smartphone you have and Google Nigeria. I can bet you any money that there are places in Nigeria that are more beautiful than some places in Edmonton, whether you like it or not. And they will Google. So that in itself is a mental chain. This belief that, oh, these people are better than me. On a systemic level, they are better. But on individual basis, I don't think that man is better human being than me simply because he's white, if that makes sense. So I had to, divorce myself from that mentality. I am a human being. Doesn't matter if I'm Black, doesn't matter if I'm white. I am a human being, and I will approach issues from that perspective. I started to appreciate my education more, even though back in the day it cost me $11 to get a degree in Unizik in Anambra State. But I started to appreciate it more because you will engage in conversations with someone who has gone to an Ivy League school or all these big universities, and you can see that they are not grounded in logic. They are arguing with you not to expound the point they have, but to show you that they are right and you are wrong. And in my university education tells me that positions are neither wrong nor right. It is the person who advances their positions better with, good arguments that will take the day. That doesn't mean that you will be right tomorrow. In a space of 24 hours, something will happen and my position becomes tenable. And as long as that conversation is ongoing, then humanity benefits. But that education which we bring here, and some of us need to, remove that I don't know what to inferiority complex. Oh, because I went to school in Nigeria, I shouldn't measure up to, wow, this guy, because he's schooled abroad, whatever he says is correct. Even in our universities in Nigeria, when a professor goes abroad and does one course or the other, they come back and everybody starts to bow down before them. But for the most part, when you scrutinize what they are saying, you find out that, So for now, these are the two things, that mindset that someone is better because they have a different skin, or that my education is bad because of where I got it. Those are the two, mental chains that we carry as a people, that we need to, as a matter of yesterday, break away from, so we can. I think our potential is there. Slavery has happened. It's horrible. It was what it was. But let me add for slavery that a lot of people do not know that the word slave came from Slavia, which is the people of Yugoslavia. That's the etymology of that word, which means at some point the people of Yugoslavia were slaves. They are white people. The biggest crime white people committed is not that they invented slavery. They didn't invent it. They industrialized it. They took it as something everybody did, and then took it to another level. And at that level, nah. So it was bad. But everybody has to at some point sit down and say, this is the part I played in this. Let's stop pointing. We're pointing at white people because I would say they could be, I don't know for sure, but they could be the most successful race as at today. So, success, failure is a bastard and success is a polygamist. So everybody wants to be the son of a rich man. So that's it for me.
I as you were speaking, I had so many thoughts that were coming in my head. All these thoughts are, and I don't want any of them to
Disappear.
disappear. So I was like, okay, hold on. I'll soon bust. Let me bring out what I wanted to say. So we see if it comes to, I couldn't agree more. And I think that, if we want to use the term slavery very loosely, I think we still have some, as Black people, we still have some slave instincts that we don't know that we are still exhibiting, this inferiority complex. For the life of me, I do not know why people should be doing Thanksgiving because they got visas to go to another country. Would you see any American who comes to work in Nigeria as an expat, will you see them go on their knees and say thank God? In fact, people say that when white people come to Africa, they are labeled expats. When Black people go to Europe or the West, they are called immigrants. So that mentality of being low, and that's why you see you have people, Nigerians pride themselves that their kids can speak with a foreign accent. Oh, one person, I read someone, one person said, oh, I brought my kid back, I took my kid back to the US, blah, 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 because I didn't want the child to lose her American accent. If a child speaks with an American accent because of the environment, so be it. But the fact that you think that I'm speaking with a Nigerian accent, then there's a problem. Those are kind of things that just baffles me.
And before I left Nigeria,
then you go abroad and you don't carry yourself with some kind of dignity, and and then you are so Please, Busui, please help me out.
You see this thing where you said, before I left Nigeria, I actually saw somebody who actually paid for their child to go to a school in Nigeria to get a British accent, because apparently it was a British-owned school, and they said the teachers there. And to me, I felt it hits me somehow like, why? Is our accent that bad, or is the British accent that superior that you had to pay extra fees for your child because you wanted your child to get the British accent? So those are the kind of things that, and you see, let me put it this way: we still kind of have this mentality, or this slavery mentality in us, whereby everybody looks at everything foreign and thinks it's better. Then everybody also, we don't really care about ourselves, and we are more about let me be better than you. Let me put it that way. So now, to the Nigerian who has a foreign passport, or who has whose child has an accent, feels he's better or stands a better chance than the Nigerian who doesn't have a foreign passport, or whose children do not have an accent. We do a lot of classism in Nigeria, where, as Nigerians, those who are in this class, those who are in this area, no, you can't associate with these people, you can't do this with these people, there's nothing to gain from these people. And so everybody is a rat race. Everybody is trying to climb to get from one class into the next class. Everybody's trying to get from one class into the next. That's why you see, look, there's corruption everywhere in the world. Trust me, the corruption over here too is mind-blowing. But the corruption in Nigeria is way mind-blowing. Because people steal like mad people. So you steal money or you do things so blatantly, like you steal money that is like made for like 3 generations, so that even after my generation goes, my children, they have to be all right. And even after my children go, my grandchildren, and even after my grandchildren, or even my great grandchildren, as in, it has to be general. So we do a lot of mindless stealing, mindless corruption in Nigeria. Sometimes you hear the amounts, you hear things, and you are like wondering, what the hell? Over here, I'm not saying, look, there's no corruption over here. Trust me, there is corruption over here. But one thing I realized over here is, like, to some extent, they still, like their people. So a Canadian can come to Nigeria right now, partake in corruption, to say, hey, we need this contract, or we need, maybe we want to establish a mining company here. We want to establish. Nigeria government will say, we'll pay you people this amount to allow us mine, to allow us this. But you see, when we do it, you allow us take out 70% of our revenue, 80% out of the country, and the government will agree, and they will take it out of the country, bring it to Canada here, and ensure that, look, maybe the headquarters is over here in Canada or whatever, where there is their own people that they are getting. And even if they're going to bring expatriates into Nigeria, it might not even be the top expats, but they will make sure that it favors them more instead of you guys. And these are some of the things that we as Black people need to look at. And the truth is that it's not even only us. I see, I have friends and colleagues who I talk to who are from other countries like India. If you understand this, their caste system, they too, they feel inferior to the whites, and they feel that the more light skinned you are, the nearer you are to the whites. So the dark skinned people are looked down on, and those who are lighter exalt themselves and think they are some sort of, they are nearer to the whites, until they come to the Western world and they realize that the whites don't even rate you or don't even care about you. So it's like that a lot, but it's much more pronounced, and what I've experienced as a Black person, as a Nigerian, is that we need to do better. We need to get some of those mentalities out of our head, that, look, you don't need to still mindlessly to show that you can prove to the next man that you are better than them, or you are way above them. My children are your children. No, you can't even come near and everything. Like it's just a slave mindset. So to an extent, over here you live in the same area. You don't know if your neighbor has $300,000 or $1,000,000 in the account, and you might have maybe $10,000. You don't know if the child who comes to school with your child, his father is, everybody uses the same transport system. I've been inside the transport system with my AVP, my directors. We sit down. I've seen the president of a big bank, sit down opposite me in a restaurant, and it's no big deal. Everybody's passing, and some people don't even know him. So the system has been set up that way over here, but back home in Nigeria, you realize that even the way the system is set up, it's a lot of classist. There's a lot of classism everywhere. So,
Well, thanks for that. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, during the time of slavery, there was forceful migration. People were taken, or black people, Africans were taken against their will from their home countries in Africa to the West to go and work, to go and do all sorts of things. In this time, the migration is not forceful, but they are put situations in place where they are exhibiting soft power. And that's why you would see that our generation, ideally, especially let's say in Nigeria, ideally, we should all be with our peers, we should all be hanging out after work, but everybody is all scattered all over the world. Everybody knows at least 5 or 6 people in Nigeria who has relocated and gone abroad. So, what is your thoughts on this? Do you think there's a soft power agenda, so to speak, especially with the collapse of the many, or the deterioration of many Nigeria and many African economies, forcing young and vibrant people, the brightest and the best of us, to have to go somewhere to take care of ourselves and our families? So, what is your take on that, Emeka? What do you feel?
Okay. Hey, Kasongo, yeah. So, someone said something to me one day, which sounds like the situation in Africa is because white people did this, and that. And I said, okay, I don't disagree. But I remember that in 1996, Nigeria won Olympic gold medal, and we were the first African nation to do that. He's like, yes, but what has that got to do with anything? I said, so if the British are responsible for the way Nigeria is, then we should give credit to the British for that accomplishment, Nigeria winning Olympic gold medal. I said, there's plenty things Nigerians have done that is recognized across the world. If we say that we are where we are because of the British, then we should also give the British the credit. Or are we giving the British the credit for the negatives, and then we are responsible for the pluses? The response I got was, this is why people don't like having conversations with you. I said, well, I'm trying to answer the question you asked me, and you are now accepting that the British, as much as we want to hold them responsible, they are not solely responsible for our plight as Africans, because we are now moving from our ancestral homes to a place of slavery, a place of oppression, quote unquote, and we're doing it willingly. Now, as racist as people want to believe America is, and I'm not saying that it is not, but as racist as we want people to believe America is, if you dock a ship in Lagos today and say, okay, we're going to America, a lot of people will jump in and go. Now, here's another experience I had with someone. They said, oh, there's racism in America, but this, that. And I said, okay. In 1981, a person was born in Nigeria. on the same day, at the same time that a person was born in America, 1981. At the age of 30, the person who was born in America is just there, existing and saying, I am the way I am because of slavery, because of racism, the system is against me. Now, the person who was born in Nigeria moved from Nigeria to the US at the age of 30. He has nothing. He just came. He landed here today. He's at the same level with the person who has spent 30 years in America. That person also has nothing. 10 years after, they are both 40 years old. The person who came to America at 30 has a house, has university advanced degrees that he got in the last 10 years, has a wife, has 2 kids, has this, all kinds of things. But the person who was born in America after 40 years is still saying the system is racist, there's this and that. These two people, when you ask, the person who was born in America will give you fantastic reasons why it is so. But at what point do we accept some personal responsibility in the way our lives are turning out? Yes, the British colonized us, fantastic or horrible, whichever way you see it. I asked someone one day, what stops the government of Tinubu from raising a squad that will go to UK and kidnap King Charles, bring him back to Nigeria and put him on that trial? There's nothing stopping us from doing that. We just don't have the power. We don't have the means. There's like nothing. But can we build a system that can achieve that, even though we don't do it? Look at China today. 30 years ago, China had nothing. Today, if US speaks, China will be like, don't be saying that. China is standing up to the UK. It wasn't that way 30 years ago. So, and these people were also colonized, though. It's not just the black man that was colonized. We need, as a people, to buy very good mirrors, look at it and say, I will fix what I see and everything else. Not all the complaints we have are as a result of racism. There's soft power because, yes, it exists. It exists because our politicians do not feel responsible enough to sit down and build systems. Africa has the, I think, youngest population in the world. So when you have what you have that you don't value, people will strategize to take advantage of it. Our education is cheap, and I've mentioned before, it cost me $11 to get a degree in Nigeria, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, from 1998 to 2002. My tuition fee was $11 if you do the calculation. Now, the things that have contributed to this system in Canada, they're immense. They're immense. I'll give you another example that will blow your mind. As a Canadian economy, as someone who is responsible for part of Canadian economy, would you allow people to leave your economy, go to Nigeria, spend $2,000, get a medical degree, come back to Canada to practice? Would you let that happen? You won't. Why? Your system will collapse. Your system of student loan and everything around that will collapse, because my neighbor will hear that I spent $2,000 and my daughter is a doctor now, as opposed to her own child spending $60,000. What do you think they'll do? Everybody will start going to Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana to get degrees and come back here. So there's value, but we don't see it. Right? Now, even the accent of the thing, everybody has an accent. I have made sure that in fact, I've personally refused to develop my accent better than this. It's possible I can develop it better than this. When my daughter speaks, I look at her, I'm like, who are you again? Because most times I don't even understand what she's saying. I just say, okay, I move on. Because, but you know, my own accent, I like it. My Ibotic Nigerian accent, I like it. When I speak, people understand me. So what's the fuss about? Until we look inwards, we make excuses for our leaders. We don't hold ourselves accountable. We are hoping for the opportunity. Why would I criticize Olusegun as governor? If I criticize him, I should just go and pray for my turn to become governor so I can steal like him. I pass my neighbor mentality. Until we fix that and start looking at the collective, you go hard though. My last thought is this. Someone asked me, how do we fix racism in the West? I said, you don't need to fix racism in the West. If African leaders can create, wherever, I'm using Africa because I'm African, if Nigeria can create the situation where I can come back to Nigeria and earn $150,000 a year, I will leave. If I leave, Busuyu leaves, all the Nigerians here leave, all the Ghanaians leave, who will be left? What do you think will happen to the system of the West? So the solution to that is still in our hands, but we refuse to utilize it. We are waiting for people who we point fingers at for creating a problem and begging them to provide the solution. Where are we in that? Don't we exist? So we will continue to make that, I don't know, what is it called now? Willful movement from where we are. I'm sure that a lot more people have moved willingly from Africa to the West than we moved with force during slavery. Why is it happening? The answer is inside us.